Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Saturday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Saturday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Saturday. Saturday, bring it on.
From the Fifth Quarter Studio in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to the Basketball Leadership Podcast. Here are your hosts, Steve Collins and Greg Berg.
Hey, Coach, welcome to the Basketball Leadership Podcast. I'm so excited you decided to join us. Before we jump into our topic today, I'd like to give a big shout out, first of all, to Coach Berg's website, gberge.gumroad.com. It's got all sorts of free resources, things that you can use, like the 300-hour club, an off-season development program, the preseason checklist, all sorts of great things. And there's some things you can buy as books. Those books are awesome. You can buy the iOS. Everything you need is over there. Go over and check it out. And then go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. It is the one-stop shop for basketball coaches. It's everything you need, everything I would have wanted in my 20s and 30s. It's got handouts, it's got printouts, it's got videos. It will walk you through this journey we call coaching. And hopefully, like my story, make a losing team into a winning team. So go over and check that out, and let's head off to the podcast. All right, welcome to the Basketball Leadership Podcast. So today we're going to talk about a challenge, Coach. What kind of challenge are we talking about? I always like,
I don't know if it's a challenge as much, but I think it's every single season as a coach. I think all coaches go through this with leadership. And it's one of the things that I talk about in my Team Leader OS, which, is kind of the ultimate leadership. It's the course I have for coaches to develop and build team leaders on their teams. But every season, I just want you to think about this. And I think it's so true. Every season you have a coach. And I know if you're not watching this on YouTube, visualize it. Imagine you have a pyramid. You have a coach at the top, and the coach lays out expectations, standards, whatever it may be. At the bottom of that pyramid, you have basically the majority of your team. And then somewhere in between, you have your team leaders. And the ultimate choice that I think team leaders have to make each and every season is they have to determine, am I going to pull my team up to a standard that we need to be successful and to win? Or am I going to let the peer pressure of my teammates pull me down to that level? And if you really
what do you mean by pull down? Like make bad decisions, not get it,
peer pressure.
Okay.
Peer pressure. So in the locker room, am I going to set the standard and say, hey, that's not what we're about? Or am I going to kind of just let it go because I don't want to put myself out there with my team? Am I at practice going to pull kids up to a higher level? Or am I going to just, slack off and not run our sprints as hard as we can because everyone else isn't? Your team leaders set the tone each and every day. And when you have good leaders, the best leaders, they pull people up to a higher standard. And when you don't have good leaders, they generally get pulled down to the peer pressure of the group. And you get mediocrity when they get pulled down to the peer pressure of the group. Now, ideally, you have enough leaders where you don't have that negative influence pulling people down. But in essence, to me, when you think of teams and mediocre teams versus high achieving teams, mediocre teams generally don't have good leadership because they get pulled down with the group and with peer pressure. And the other thing I think about this is we've probably seen, I know I've seen plenty of these. You may have a coach that doesn't have incredibly high standards. Okay. Maybe they don't have a real strong program. You can see it. You can see it with the culture. You can see what's allowed, and they're very mediocre and average. Then all of a sudden they might have a group come through, and all of a sudden they achieve really well for a couple of years. And then as soon as that group leaves, they go back to that mediocrity, even maybe if they have some talent. Generally speaking, that player, that team probably had really good player leadership that pulled everyone up, including the coach. Like the coach, that sometimes the player standards are higher than the coach standards, and the player leaders will pull even a coach up to a higher level. And then as soon as they leave, it goes back. And so it just really goes to the importance in my mind of player leadership. And each and every season, those leaders have to make a decision. Am I pulling people up to a higher standard, or am I getting pulled down? We talked about Carla Overbeck earlier. Carla Overbeck refused to let anyone on her team play below her standard. She pulled everyone up. I think mediocre leaders succumb to peer pressure.
Have you watched Ted Lasso?
Yes, I love Ted Lasso.
I mean, that locker room, that leaders developed in that locker room.
Yep.
I mean, Coach Lasso was obviously doing parts of it, but they were successful eventually. And even when it's as a coach that's coached a long time, when you watch that, it's like, yes, of course. Like the star comes in and they win for a while, but kind of wasn't on the same page. And then it's like all the little micro, I mean, I don't know. Someone that knows something about athletics either got lucky or they knew something when they were writing that. I don't know.
There's so many neat parallels to just life and to what we have seen in our career over and over. Yeah, that's why it's a great show. But I think that's the ultimate leadership challenge each and every year is, what are your team leaders going to do? And that's why team leaders are so important. And why us as coaches have to try to develop them and bring them along, because in the end, the true culture of a team is what happens when the coach is not around. And the true culture of a team is what your leaders allow behind the scenes, what your standards your team leaders hold others to, whether it's in the locker room or outside of school or in the weight room when the coach isn't there. I mean, that really defines, in a lot of cases, the success of our teams.
And so what does the challenge involve? So you have my team and they're coming in. How do I challenge them to do? Is there specific things I'm talking to them about? What am I doing as the coach to be able to do that?
Well, I think the challenge is in regard to the leader, your player leader. Like, what is your player leader going to succumb to peer pressure and get pulled down, or is your team leader going to pull people up? That's the ultimate challenge. As a coach, our challenge is, how do we develop that leader so that they don't get pulled down to the group? It's really peer pressure. It's no different than any type of peer pressure. It's the same thing. And that's the challenge, I would say, each and every season as a coach, is how do we develop those kids so that does not happen?
And that's hard.
It is hard. And, but it has to be systemic. It has to be ongoing. It's not always going to be perfect, but when you focus on it year after year after year, it becomes part of your culture, and your tough years aren't as tough. You get through your tough years better because you have good leaders.
Yes.
And I think good programs, and we're both part of really good programs, we have established systems of leadership and kids that come through. And
it's less stressful too. As I'm telling the coaches are listening, it's so much easier. Oh my God.
Totally.
The teams that I haven't had leaders and I've had to, it's like, you can still be successful, but it's like, so anybody that's from, I'll give a Wisconsin analogy. It's like driving to, you're in Oshkosh and you want to drive to Milwaukee. You would go first to Superior and then to Madison and then over, rather than just driving from Oshkosh right down to Milwaukee. It's like
exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's just like you're making a 6-hour trip or a 3-hour trip, a 24-hour trip. And you can do it. I can get from point A to point B. But when you have those, Oh my gosh, it's so much easier.
And so the bottom line is we can either wait, wish, and hope for leaders, or we can systemically try to develop them.
Yes.
That's why I wrote this Team Leader OS. That's why it matters to me. And because ultimately that's the choice. And
right.
What are we going to do?
It's part of the reason I reached out to you. It's part of the reason we started the podcast, because I see how important it is. First of all, not only it's important for your basketball teams. Obviously, it's the basketball leadership podcast, but it's also important for human beings, adults, their life. They're gonna have to lead as a parent. They're gonna have to lead as a community leader. It's such a much bigger picture, the way I see it, than just basketball. But basketball is kind of the hook, and that's why I reached out to you, because I think that's how important it is.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, all that. All right. Until what's next week, Coach? Oh, the checklist. This is what I'm looking forward to. The checklist. All right. Till next week.